Yes, it definitely did. After months and months of worry and sleepless nights about my inability to repay my debt and the continuous harassment from the debt collectors, and you might know what I mean, at age 57 I went bankrupt. Not an easy thing to do, but fairly soon I began to realise what a relief. I was now out of debt. The roof hadn't fallen in, and most importantly, I found that I slept all night. At that point, come what may, I had no doubt that it was the best thing that I could have done. I felt human again. Don't let anybody shame you into thinking that you're doing the wrong thing to go bankrupt. Just remember, it's your life and your future. It'll cost you a lot of money if you let somebody talk you out of it. I closed down the accountancy practice that I'd started from scratch. Once I'd picked myself up and dusted myself down, I was ready to start again. And so get on with getting back on my feet and on with my life. And in doing so, I created a new career and a new industry and became more successful than I was beforehand, both financially and what gave me most satisfaction in what I was able to contribute to those seeking an answer to what to do about their crippling debt. You see, knowing how I felt up to this point, I thought that others must be feeling the same way too. So I set up a bankruptcy information website dedicated to giving free information about bankruptcy, but importantly, I felt it was written from our point of view. I was the first in Australia to do so. Before it was replaced, this website had over 1,127,000 hits. Right from the word go, I began to get telephone calls and emails from people all over Australia, and sometimes from Australians living overseas, but with debt still here. It told me that there was a need out there. And what people had also told me, I realised that bankruptcy saves lives. One fellow told me that while he was never going to jump under a bus, from reading my website he realised that bankruptcy would save his financial life. And then he could start again and become successful again. I've now registered Bankruptcy Saves Lives as a business name. If after talking to me, and people often call many times, they decided to declare themselves bankrupt, then it was quick and painless. They could do the paperwork themselves at no cost, or if they wished, or I could get it done for them quickly and at minimal cost. A lot of people told me that the hardest thing about starting the process was typing the word bankruptcy into Google. Moving on, I found that bankruptcy was also very human, very humane. A picture nothing like what the debt collectors and lawyers and good intending grandmas had painted. It was very private. Really, just between you and the people that you owe money to. Perhaps I had something to do with that change to the system. First of all, I would stress that going bankrupt is legal. It's definitely not immoral, nor is it a cop-out. Don't have your emotions allow others to blackmail you about your decision to go bankrupt. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's about getting out of debt quickly so that you can start again and get on with your life. Bankruptcy is a solution. It's life-saving. It's just like somebody getting help to stop smoking so that they too can live again. Bankruptcy is a change of life decision, and right now it's no good staying miserable and broke. I think that the main other debt-solving alternative out there, a debt agreement proposal, is the immoral one. See, the way it works is if they can make you feel guilty if you choose to go bankrupt and so keep you paying something, then they've got you. You become part of their pot of gold. One of the companies who did the debt agreement proposal thing are actually a company on the stock exchange. And they were paying a dividend of about 7% when I last looked. You're their pot of gold because they get you to pay them a set-up fee, which doesn't look as though it will be cheap to me, because the website for the government department, AFSA, that gives information on debt agreement, seems to say that your debt can be paused for 3 months while you're saving the set-up fee. You then make your repayments for 3 to 5 years, and the pot of gold gets a percentage of those repayments, say 20%. And your debt isn't finally cancelled until you've made your last monthly payment. No wonder some try to shame you into not thinking about going bankrupt. If you really can't afford the repayments over whatever number of years are being proposed for your debt agreement, then it will simply keep you broke and miserable. When I was consulting about bankruptcy and I came across someone in a debt agreement who wanted out so they could go bankrupt, and I used to tell them the first thing to do was to go to their bank and cancel their debt agreements, repayment, direct debit. Then in writing, seek the cancellation of the agreement. It would probably be best to check with the bankruptcy trustee first these days, in case there's been a change in how to do this. But from what I can see, it's pretty much the same now as it was in my day. Good bankruptcy websites will go to the trouble of explaining everything so that in the end it'll be quite clear which option is best for you. It won't take you long to spot the caring and really informative ones as opposed to the ones that are really trying to steer you away from bankruptcy. Remember, they want you in their pot of gold. They're in business to do that. If you don't make any of those debt agreement repayments for 6 months, then your debt agreement is automatically cancelled anyway. So if you can speak to somebody who has already been bankrupt, then that's a big plus for you. I sometimes would ask a caller if they'd read my website before starting to go into too much depth in talking about bankruptcy. I'd simply tell them what income they would be able to earn and keep as a bankrupt, and that they're unlikely to lose their car. But then I'd ask them to read the website and call me back, and we could talk some more, and I could answer their questions. Most did. On income, when I first started to consult in bankruptcy, I think that a person could keep, as a minimum, the first $700 or so of their weekly income. That's after tax and after child support. Now that figure's over $1,000. People used to say to me, I wish. Once you go bankrupt, you personally don't have to pay your bankruptcy trustee any fees at all. None. Any costs and fees come out of what bankruptcy law says that the trustee can sell, or if you're a good earner, what you have to pay into your bankruptcy anyway. That's the 50% bit. If your income doesn't put you in that 50% bit, then you don't pay anything. You keep the lot. Don't touch your super either to try and pay your debt, because that's a hiding to nothing. Well, I don't know about the word recommend. I never thought, and I still don't think, that it's appropriate for me to do that. I certainly had my own opinions about a situation being discussed, and in most cases, I'm sure that the person to whom I was speaking to could guess what that was. But I used to prefer to say that if you decide to go bankrupt, then most, if not all of your debt will be cancelled. Immediately. And forever. Etc. Depending upon what was the truth and appropriate. Rarely, rarely, rarely did I come across a situation where I thought the person to whom I was speaking would be better off by not going bankrupt. I think that bankruptcy beats the other alternatives that are promoted out there, hands down. For one, bankruptcy is fair and humane. You can become bankrupt and out of debt very quickly and simply. You'll then be able to get on with the rest of your life. That's it. Back in my chartered accountant days, I personally didn't know Alan Nichols, but to introduce himself, he sent accountants and solicitors a couple of coffee mugs that had his firm's name and telephone number on them. Then, if ever I wanted a client to contact him for a bankruptcy or company liquidation matter, I just raced out into the kitchen to get the details off one of his mugs. And although I'd never met him, I continued to get good feedback from clients that had made contact and used his services. Just over 10 years ago, Alan and I did eventually meet, and we soon clicked as we realised that we had similar attitudes and ethics. I've been comfortable now to send many inquiries to Nichols & Co, and have always got good feedback. Alan says that he is proud of what he and I have done over the years for people facing bankruptcy, and I am too.